The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Concord was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, a massive sphere of white metal and blue crystal that could hold representatives from 1,000 worlds. Today, only 17 species had gathered inside. But these 17 controlled everything that mattered in the known galaxy. Ambassador Jack Morrison stood alone on the human platform. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served humanity in space for over 20 years. He had shaken hands with creatures that had no hands. He had negotiated treaties with beings that communicated through colors and smells. He had believed, truly believed, that humanity could find its place among the stars. Now he watched that dream die. The holographic display above the central floor showed the vote count. 17 votes in favor. 0 against. The motion had passed without a single voice of opposition. High Arbiter Velkoth rose from his elevated seat. He was Sithrani, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. He was beautiful and terrible, and he had hated humanity from the first day they entered galactic society. "The vote is complete," Velkoth announced. His voice rang through the chamber like a bell. "Earth and all human colonies are hereby expelled from the Galactic Concord. You have 30 solar cycles to remove your people from all embassy stations and shared facilities. Your trade agreements are cancelled. Your access to the hyperspace corridor network is permanently revoked." Jack said nothing. He had known this was coming. They all had. Velkoth continued, and Jack could hear the satisfaction in his crystalline voice. "Humanity was given a great gift when we discovered your world 40 years ago. We offered you technology, knowledge, and a place in our community. We asked only that you respect our traditions and accept your role as a young species still learning the ways of civilization." The Arbiter's crystal body pulsed with cold blue light. "Instead, you questioned our laws. You challenged our customs. You demanded changes to systems that have worked for 10,000 years. You refused to know your place." Jack finally spoke. His voice was calm and steady. "We asked questions because we wanted to understand. We suggested changes because we saw problems that needed fixing. We refused to accept our place because the place you gave us was at the bottom, serving everyone above us." A ripple of displeasure went through the chamber. Several delegates made sounds of disgust or disapproval. "You see?" Velkoth said to the assembly. "Even now, facing banishment, they argue. They fight. They cannot simply accept what is." Jack looked around at the assembled species. The Velthari with their 4 arms and golden eyes, the Krell with their armored bodies and warrior culture, the Hethrani with their flowing robes and ancient wisdom. All of them had voted against humanity. All of them wanted Earth gone. "We accept your decision," Jack said simply. "I will inform my government." He turned and walked out of the chamber. He did not look back. The message reached Earth 12 hours later. President Laura Bennett read it in the Situation Room, a secure facility buried deep beneath the White House. The room was filled with the most powerful people in human government. Military commanders, intelligence directors, cabinet secretaries. They all watched her face as she absorbed the news. 17-0, she said quietly. "Not a single species voted to keep us." Secretary of Defense Paul Henderson shook his head. "We knew this was coming, ma'am. The intelligence reports have been clear for months. Knowing something is coming and watching it happen are different things." Laura set down the tablet and looked around the room. "For 40 years, we tried to make this work. We followed their rules. We accepted their technology. We tried to be good members of their community. And this is how it ends." A door at the back of the room opened, and a woman walked in. She was small, with short dark hair and sharp eyes behind simple glasses. Most of the people in the room had never seen her before. She was Dr. Amy Lawson, and officially, she did not exist. "Actually," Amy said, taking a seat at the table. "This is how it begins." Laura nodded. "Everyone, this is Dr. Lawson. She runs a program called Project Ascension. Most of you have never heard of it because we have kept it completely hidden for the past 10 years, not from our enemies, but from our supposed friends in the Concorde. Amy opened a laptop and projected images onto the main screen. Blueprints, ship designs, weapon systems, technologies that looked nothing like the equipment humanity had received from the galaxy. When we first made contact with the Concorde, Amy explained, we were excited. They had faster-than-light travel, advanced medicine, incredible energy systems. They shared all of it with us, and we were grateful. But some of us started asking questions. She changed the image to show the hyperspace corridor network, a vast web of routes that connected every major system in the galaxy. Why did we have to use their corridors for faster-than-light travel? Why couldn't we develop our own systems? The answer, we eventually realized, was control. As long as we depended on their infrastructure, they could cut us off whenever they wanted, which is exactly what they have just done. General Marcus Hayes leaned forward. You are saying we have been building our own FTL technology in secret, not just FTL. Amy smiled. Everything. Ships, weapons, shields, sensors. All of it developed independently, using human science and human engineering. The Concorde thinks they have sent us back to the Stone Age by cutting us off from their network. They are wrong. Laura stood and walked to the screen. The Concorde has made a mistake. They think we are children who will cry and beg to be let back in. They think we will collapse without their help. She turned to face the room. We are going to show them what humanity can do when we stop playing by their rules. She looked at each person in the room, meeting their eyes one by one. We have spent 40 years as guests in someone else's galaxy. That time is over. Starting today, we build our own future, and when the Concorde realizes what they have done, it will be far too late to stop us. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Concorde, High Arbiter Velkoth celebrated with the other delegates. They drank ancient wines and congratulated themselves on removing a problem before it could grow dangerous. They spoke of humanity as a lesson learned, a mistake corrected, a minor footnote in galactic history. None of them knew what was coming. None of them could have imagined it. But deep in the heart of human space, factories that had been hidden for years began their work. Ships that had never been seen by alien eyes powered up their engines. Scientists and engineers who had worked in total secrecy prepared to reveal their creations. Humanity had been banished. Humanity had been humiliated. And humanity was about to make the entire galaxy regret it. The galaxy expected humanity to fall apart quickly. Without access to the hyperspace corridors, human ships could not travel between stars at faster-than-light speeds. Without trade agreements, human colonies would run out of resources. Without the technology and support of the Concorde, Earth would slide back into darkness. Economists from a dozen species published reports predicting total collapse within 2 years. Military analysts wrote papers explaining how human colonies would turn on each other as supplies ran low. Cultural experts suggested that humanity's aggressive nature would lead to civil war once they had no outside enemies to fight. For 6 months, nothing happened. Human ships quietly returned to their home systems. Embassies were emptied and closed. Diplomats and traders came home without complaint or protest. The humans simply disappeared from galactic society, as if they had never been part of it at all. High Arbiter Velkoth received weekly reports on the human situation. Each week, the reports were the same. No distress signals. No requests for help. No signs of the predicted collapse. Just silence. They are hiding their problems, Velkoth told his advisors. They are too proud to admit they are dying. Soon enough, we will receive desperate messages begging for food and medicine. When that happens, we will offer to help. But only if they accept permanent supervised status. Humanity will become a lesson for all young species who think they can challenge the natural order. He was very, very wrong. Admiral Sam Blake stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched his new fleet take shape. Through the viewing window, he could see dozens of ships moving into formation. They were beautiful machines, sleek and powerful, designed by human engineers who had never seen an alien spacecraft. The Defiance itself was the crown jewel of the new fleet. 3 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could crack a moon in half, protected by shields that could withstand a star's corona. It was the most powerful warship ever built by any species, and the galaxy had no idea it existed. Commander Helen Price walked up beside him. She was his second in command, a brilliant tactician who had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. "Final tests are complete," she reported. "All systems functioning within expected parameters. The fold drive is ready." Sam nodded slowly. The fold drive was humanity's greatest secret. While the Concorde used hyperspace corridors, fixed routes through another dimension that connected specific points in space, the fold drive worked differently. It literally folded space, bringing two distant points together and allowing a ship to step from one to the other instantly. The corridors were like roads. The fold drive was like being able to teleport anywhere you wanted. "And the other ships?" Sam asked. 47 vessels ready for deployment. Another 100 will be complete within 3 months. By the end of the year, we will have a fleet larger than any single species in the Concorde. Sam turned away from the window. They gave us 40 years of their technology. They thought they were giving us toys to keep us happy. They did not realize they were giving us a foundation to build something better. On Titan, one of Saturn's moons, Dr. Ryan Pierce worked in a laboratory that officially did not exist. The facility was buried under kilometers of ice, invisible to any sensor the Concorde might use. Here, humanity's most secret weapons were being perfected. Ryan was not building bombs or missiles. He was building something far more elegant. His assistant, Dr. Kate Miller, brought him the latest test results. "The disruption field works perfectly," she said. "We tested it on a Velthari power core we acquired years ago. Complete shutdown in less than 2 seconds. No damage, no radiation, no side effects. The ship just stops working." Ryan studied the data on his screen. "What about the restoration time?" "About 4 hours for a small vessel. Maybe a day for something larger. Long enough to board them or tow them away, but not long enough to cause any deaths from life support failure." Ryan smiled. This was what made human weapons different from the weapons of the Concorde. The Concorde built things that destroyed. Humanity was building things that controlled. "The philosophy is simple," Ryan explained to a group of young scientists who had recently joined the project. "We do not want to kill our enemies. Dead enemies cannot surrender. Dead enemies cannot change their minds. Dead enemies cannot become friends. We want to make our enemies helpless. Show them they cannot win, and then give them a choice. That is how you change a galaxy." Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Lisa Grant was preparing for a different kind of mission. She had spent 20 years as a diplomat, working within the Concorde system, playing by their rules. Now she was going to help write new rules. "The key is not to compete with the Concorde," she explained to her team. "We cannot match their economic power or their military strength. Not yet. But we can offer something they have never offered: fairness." She pulled up a map showing hundreds of smaller species scattered across the galaxy. Civilizations that had been conquered, exploited, or simply ignored by the major powers. The Concorde is built on control. The big species control the small ones. The old species control the young ones. Everyone owes something to someone above them. The system works because no one has ever offered an alternative. Lisa smiled. "We are going to be that alternative." President Laura Bennett visited the secret shipyards 3 months after the banishment. She walked through the massive facilities with Admiral Blake at her side, watching thousands of workers putting the finishing touches on humanity's new fleet. "When I was a girl," she said, "my grandmother told me stories about the first contact. She was there, you know. She was one of the scientists who received the first alien transmission. She said it was the happiest day of her life. She thought it meant humanity would finally have friends among the stars." She stopped and looked at a ship being fitted with its fold drive. She died disappointed. She never understood why the aliens treated us like children. Why they were so determined to keep us in our place. "And now?" Sam asked. "Now I understand. They were not keeping us in our place because we were young or primitive. They were keeping us in our place because they were afraid. Afraid of what we might become if they let us grow. Laura turned to face the Admiral. They were right to be afraid. 6 months of silence had passed. The galaxy thought humanity was dying. The galaxy thought they had won. In secret shipyards and hidden laboratories, in quiet meetings and careful plans, humanity prepared to show them how wrong they were. The silence was about to break. And when it did, nothing would ever be the same. The Velthari merchant convoy was 3 days from home when their sensors detected something impossible. A ship had appeared directly in their path. Not approaching from any direction, not exiting a hyperspace corridor. It was simply there, as if it had always existed in that exact spot. Captain Zethral checked his instruments 3 times before accepting what they told him. The ship was human. That cannot be right, his navigation officer said. The nearest human colony is 4 months of travel from here without corridor access. How did they get here? Zethral had no answer. He opened a communication channel with shaking hands. The human vessel was called the Horizon. It was small compared to the merchant ships, but something about it made Zethral deeply uneasy. There was a grace to its design, a sense of purpose that Concord ships did not have. It looked like a predator resting between hunts. A human face appeared on the screen. A young man with calm eyes and an easy smile. "Good morning," the human said. "I am Captain Nate Cooper, of the Earth vessel Horizon. This is neutral space. We have as much right to be here as you do." Zethral struggled to find words. "How did you? Your species does not have faster-than-light capability. The corridors are closed to you." Nate smiled wider. "We have found another way to travel. Please pass along our regards to the Concord. Tell them that humanity is not confined to our little corner of space anymore. We are everywhere now." The Horizon turned and vanished. Not into hyperspace. It simply folded itself away, disappearing as if it had never existed. Zethral sat in his captain's chair for a long time, trying to understand what he had witnessed. 3 days later, his report reached the High Arbiter's desk. Velkoth read it 7 times, before calling an emergency meeting of the Concord leadership. "This is impossible," declared General Krath of the Krell Dominion. He was a massive creature, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in natural armor that could stop most weapons. His species prided themselves on being the greatest warriors in the galaxy. The humans do not have this technology. They cannot have developed it in 6 months. "The report is verified," Velkoth replied coldly. "The Velthari captain has served honorably for 30 years. He is not lying or mistaken." Elder Matriarch Silith of the Hethrani, the oldest member of the council, spoke softly. "Perhaps they have had this technology for longer than 6 months. Perhaps they have been hiding many things from us." The room fell silent. The idea that humanity had been secretly developing advanced technology while pretending to be a primitive young species was deeply troubling. It suggested a level of planning and patience that the Concord had never expected from humans. "We must test them," General Krath announced. "Send a force into their space. Discover what they truly have. If this new technology is their only advantage, we can still crush them with numbers." Velkoth hesitated. Something about this situation felt wrong. But the Krell general was already contacting his fleet commanders. 3 weeks later, 60 Krell warships crossed into the buffer zone surrounding the Sol system. They were the finest vessels the Dominion had, crewed by experienced warriors who had never known defeat. Their weapons could shatter moons. Their shields could withstand any attack the Concord had ever faced. Admiral Sam Blake was waiting for them. The Defiance emerged from its fold point directly in front of the Krell fleet, flanked by 30 human vessels. They were outnumbered 2 to 1. General Krath, commanding from his flagship, laughed when he saw them. "Foolish humans," he growled. "You should have stayed hidden. Now you will learn what happens when children challenge warriors." He gave the order to attack. Nothing happened. Across the Krell fleet, lights flickered and died. Engines fell silent. Weapons systems went dark. Communications cut off. In less than 10 seconds, 60 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy became 60 helpless metal boxes drifting in the void. General Krath stood on his dead bridge, surrounded by darkness, and felt something he had never experienced in his long life. Fear. Emergency lights eventually came on, running on backup power. A human face appeared on the emergency communication screen. Admiral Blake looked at the Krell general with calm, steady eyes. "Your ships are not damaged," Blake said. "Your crews are not harmed. Your weapons and engines will restart in about 6 hours. You have that time to leave our space. If you are still here when your systems come back online, we will disable you again. And again. And again. As many times as it takes for you to understand." Krath's armored hands clenched with rage. "You dare threaten the Krell Dominion? We will return with 1,000 ships. We will burn your worlds to ash." Blake's expression did not change. "You voted us out because you thought we were weak. You attacked us because you thought we were helpless. You were wrong on both counts. Go home. General, tell the Concord what happened here. Tell them that humanity is not their enemy unless they make us one." The transmission ended. 6 hours later, Krell systems rebooted across the fleet. General Krath considered attacking, but his officers talked him out of it. They had seen what human technology could do. They had experienced total helplessness. None of them wanted to feel that again. The Krell retreated. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within days. The most feared warriors in known space had been defeated without a single shot being fired. Human ships could appear anywhere, at any time. Without warning, human weapons could disable an entire fleet in seconds. Everything the Concord thought they knew about humanity was wrong. On Earth, President Laura Bennett watched the coverage from her office. Reports from 100 worlds, all saying the same thing. The humans were back. The humans had new technology. The humans were not what anyone had thought they were. Ambassador Lisa Grant stood beside her. "The small species are paying attention now. They have spent centuries being told the Concord is unbeatable. Today they learned that is not true." Laura nodded slowly. "This was never about revenge. We could have destroyed those ships. We could have killed every Krell on board. Instead, we let them go. We showed them we are strong enough to spare our enemies. And now?" Laura turned from the window. "Now we show them what we want to build. Strength is only the beginning. What comes next is what really matters." The silence had broken. Humanity had announced its return to the galactic stage. But the greatest changes were still to come. Ambassador Lisa Grant traveled alone to the Dravani homeworld. Her ship, a small diplomatic vessel called the Messenger, folded into orbit without warning or announcement. It was a calculated choice. She wanted the Dravani to see human technology up close. She wanted them to understand that Earth was no longer a weak species begging for scraps from the Concord table. The Dravani were a small people, barely a meter tall, with soft blue skin and large dark eyes. They had been part of the Concord for 300 years. In that time, they had accumulated a debt so large that their great-grandchildren would still be paying it off. They worked in factories owned by the Velthari. They served on ships, commanded by the Krell. They had no freedom, no hope, and no future of their own. Their leader, a tired old male named Consul Orith, met Lisa in a simple room with bare walls. He looked at her with suspicion and something else. Something like hunger. "Why are you here?" he asked. "The Concord has told us you are dangerous. They say you want to conquer the galaxy." "Ah," Lisa sat down across from him. "The Concord voted to banish us because we asked too many questions. We challenged their rules. We refused to accept our place at the bottom of their system." She leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, Consul, do the Dravani accept their place?" Orith was silent for a long moment. "We have no choice. Our debt to the Velthari cannot be paid in 1,000 years. Our workers build their products. Our soldiers fight in their wars. Everything we produce belongs to someone else. What if you had a choice?" The Consul's large eyes widened. "There is no choice. The Concord controls all trade. They control the hyperspace corridors. Without them, We cannot even travel between our own colonies. Lisa smiled and pulled out a small device. She placed it on the table between them. This is a communication unit. Direct link to Earth. No Concord monitoring. No tracking. Just us. She explained the offer simply. Humanity would trade with the Dravani directly. Fair prices. No debt. No conditions. Ships with fold drives would carry goods between human space and Dravani worlds, bypassing the corridors entirely. The Concord would not know. Could not stop it. We are not asking you to join us, Lisa said. We are not asking you to fight the Concord. We are simply offering you an alternative. Trade with us. Keep your profits. And start building a future for your people. Or do nothing, and things stay as they are. The choice is yours. Orith held the communication device like it was made of gold. Why? He asked quietly. Why would you help us? What do you gain? Friends, Lisa replied. Partners. A galaxy where the strong do not automatically crush the weak. We were treated badly by the Concord. And we survived. We want to build something different. Something better. She stood to leave. Think about it. Talk to your people. When you are ready, use that device. We will be waiting. The Dravani were not the only species Lisa visited. Over the following months, she traveled to dozens of worlds. The Nathari, enslaved miners who worked in conditions that killed half of them before their 30th birthday. The Silvani, artists and philosophers whose cultural treasures had been stolen and locked away in Velthari museums. The Keth, engineers whose inventions had been claimed by their Concord overlords for centuries. To each of them, she made the same offer. Fair trade. No debt. No masters. A chance to determine their own future. Not everyone accepted immediately. Many were too afraid. The Conquered had ruled for 10,000 years, and challenging that power seemed impossible. But some species took the risk. They sent secret messages to Earth. They traded goods through hidden channels. They began to believe that things could change. High Arbiter Velkoth watched his empire begin to crack. It happened slowly at first. Minor disruptions in supply chains, unexpected shortages of raw materials, workers who had always been compliant suddenly demanding better conditions. Small things, annoying things. But the small things added up. We are losing control, reported Minister Threll, the Velthari economic advisor. Goods are moving outside our monitored channels. Species we have owned for centuries are becoming independent, and every trail leads back to Earth. Velkoth slammed his crystalline fist against his desk, shattering a corner. Then we stop them. We send fleets. We blockade their space. We make an example of anyone who trades with them. With respect, Arbiter, we tried that. The Krell tried that. Their entire fleet was disabled in seconds. Threll hesitated. There are also rumors that other species are developing similar technology. The humans are sharing their knowledge. This was the true nightmare. It was one thing to face a single enemy with advanced technology. It was another thing entirely to face a galaxy full of enemies all armed with the same weapons. Elder Matriarch Silith requested a private audience with the Arbiter. She was the oldest member of the Concord leadership, and her wisdom was respected even by those who disagreed with her. I warned you, she said softly. When we voted to banish Earth, I warned you this would not end well. You voted with us, Velkoth reminded her coldly. Because I had no choice. The vote was political theater. You had already decided the outcome. Silith moved to the window and looked out at the stars. But I knew what humanity was. I studied them. I understood them. And I knew that banishing them would not make them weak. It would make them determined. What would you have me do now? Beg for forgiveness? Silith turned back to face him. I would have you accept reality. The Concord has ruled through control for 10,000 years. We controlled the corridors. We controlled the economy. We controlled the knowledge. But humanity has broken every chain we put on them. And now they are teaching others to break their chains too. She walked toward the door. The old order is dying, Arbiter. You can fight that death, or you can help build something new. But you cannot stop what is coming. No one can. On Earth, President Laura Bennett received reports from across the galaxy. 30 species had begun secret trade relations with humanity. 12 more were negotiating. The Concord's economic system was losing billions in value every day as goods flowed through channels they could not monitor or tax. "We are winning," said Admiral Blake during a strategy meeting. "Not through war, but through choice. We are giving people options they never had before." Laura nodded, but her expression was serious. "The Concord will not accept this forever. Eventually, they will have to respond. Either they change, or they try to destroy us. We need to be ready for both possibilities." She looked at the star map showing human territory and the growing network of allied worlds beyond it. "We started this by being banished. We continued it by proving we were strong. Now we finish it by showing what we really want." She straightened in her chair. "It is time to deliver our message directly. It is time to tell the Concord what the new rules are." 2 years after the vote to banish Earth, the largest diplomatic fleet in galactic history crossed into neutral space. 17 species sent their finest vessels. High Arbiter Velkoth himself traveled on the lead ship, a massive Sithrani cruiser covered in crystal spires that caught the light of distant stars. They were coming to negotiate with humanity. Not as masters speaking to servants. Not as judges delivering punishment. They were coming because they had no other choice. The meeting station floated in the empty darkness between stars. It was a simple structure, built by humans in just 3 months. No decorations, no grand chambers, just functional rooms where conversations could happen away from listening ears. A single human ship waited to greet the Concord delegation. The Defiance was larger than any vessel in the alien fleet, but it hung motionless and quiet, making no threatening moves. Admiral Sam Blake escorted the visitors to the station personally. High Arbiter Velkoth walked through the human corridors with barely controlled anger. Every surface reminded him of what humanity had accomplished. The lights powered by human technology, the gravity produced by human science, the walls built by human hands. None of it required the Concord. None of it asked for permission. President Laura Bennett was waiting in the main conference room. She stood at the head of a simple table, wearing a dark suit with no medals or symbols of office. Beside her stood Ambassador Jack Morrison, the same man who had received the banishment verdict 2 years ago. His eyes were not tired anymore. Velkoth took his seat at the opposite end of the table. The other Concord representatives filled in around him. Leaders from all 17 species who had voted against humanity. They looked uncomfortable. They looked afraid. "Good," Laura thought. "Thank you for coming," she said. Her voice was calm and pleasant, as if this were a routine meeting between old friends. "I know the journey was difficult. I hope we can make it worth your time." Velkoth spoke immediately. "We are prepared to discuss your readmission to the Galactic Concord. Certain conditions would apply, of course. Monitoring of your new technology. Limits on your expansion. Regular inspections to ensure compliance with Concord standards." Laura raised her hand, and the Arbiter fell silent. It was a small gesture, but it changed everything. 2 years ago, no human could have silenced the High Arbiter. 2 years ago, humans waited to be spoken to. "I am going to stop you there, Arbiter. We did not invite you here to beg for readmission. Those days are over." She walked slowly around the table, passing each delegate, looking at them one by one. 40 years ago, you found us. You offered us technology and knowledge, and a place in your community. We were grateful. We worked hard to be good members. We tried to earn your respect." Her voice hardened slightly. "But nothing we did was ever enough. We were too curious, too ambitious, too human. You never saw us as partners. You saw us as problems waiting to happen, so you voted us out. You expected us to crawl away and die quietly." She returned to her position at the head of the table. "Instead, we thrived. We built technology you cannot understand. We made friends you cannot control. We changed the rules of the game, and now you are here because your empire is crumbling, and you do not know how to stop it." General Krath slammed his armored fist on the table. You dare lecture us? We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. What have humans accomplished in their brief existence? Admiral Blake answered from his position by the door. We survived extinction events that destroyed 90% of all species. We built civilizations, destroyed them, and built them again. We walked on our moon when most species were still learning to use fire. And in the 2 years since you banished us, we developed technology that makes your entire fleet helpless. He met the general's eyes without fear. You measure accomplishment in years of dominance. We measure it in the ability to overcome. By that standard, humanity has accomplished more than your species has imagined. Velkoth struggled to maintain control of the conversation. What do you want? If not readmission, then what? War? Conquest? Laura shook her head. We want you to stop. Stop exploiting the smaller species. Stop trapping them in debts they cannot pay. Stop treating the galaxy like your personal property. She activated a display showing the network of connections humanity had built in 2 years. Dozens of species, trading freely, sharing technology, building their own futures. This is what we have created. Fair trade, equal partnerships, no masters, no slaves. It is spreading, Arbiter. It is spreading because people want it, because it is better than what you offer. Elder Matriarch Silith spoke for the first time. And if we refuse to change, if we continue as we have for 10,000 years, Laura turned to face the ancient Hethrani leader. Then you will watch everything you built disappear. Not because we will destroy it. Because the species you have controlled for centuries will leave you. They are already leaving. Every day, more of them discover that they have choices. Every day, your empire shrinks. Grainstay. Every day. She moved back to the table and placed her hands flat on its surface, leaning forward to look directly at Velkoth. Here are our rules. First, all debt slavery ends. Every species starts fresh. Second, the hyperspace corridors become public infrastructure, not tools of control. Third, the Concord becomes a true partnership, where every species has an equal voice. Velkoth's crystal body flickered with angry light. These demands would destroy everything we have built. Yes, Laura agreed. They would destroy the system you built to dominate others. But they would allow you to build something new. Something better. A galaxy where strength protects the weak instead of crushing them. She straightened and folded her arms. Those are our rules. Accept them. And we can work together. Reject them. And watch your empire fade while we build a future you cannot stop. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then, slowly, Elder Matriarch Silith stood. I accept your terms, she said quietly. The Hethrani will work with humanity to build this new order. The room erupted in protests. But over the next hour, more delegates stood. The Dravani representative, attending as an observer, declared his species' support. The Nathari, invited by Laura personally, added their voice. One by one, species chose the future over the past. By the end of the meeting, only Velkoth and a handful of hardliners remained opposed. Laura looked at the High Arbiter with something almost like pity. The galaxy is changing. Arbiter. With you or without you. The choice is yours. Admiral Blake escorted the Concord delegation back to their ships. As the alien vessels departed, he returned to the conference room where Laura stood alone, looking out at the stars. Do you think it worked? He asked. It is working, she replied. Not because we forced them, but because we gave them something better. That is how you change a galaxy. Not with weapons. With hope. She turned from the window and smiled. We were banished. We survived. And now we are writing the rules. Outside, the stars burned steady and bright. Witnesses to the birth of something new. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy. Not at the bottom. Not at the top. But exactly where they chose to be. The vote to banish Earth had passed unanimously. And in the end, It was the greatest gift the Concorde had ever given them.